All right, it's finally happened. Alioth has been changed. I know there's a lot of people celebrating out there because Alioth has been a thorn in the side of a lot of Marvel Snap players for some time, but I mean, I like the change. I like the change to a 6-3. It's a lot more than I expected. I did not expect a 6-3. Coccia and I talked about on the Snapchat potentially going down to 6-4, just to kind of take a little bit of excitement off Alioth and potentially reduce this 25% meta share. 6-3 is going to be a very notable change. The development note does identify that it becomes extremely vulnerable to things like Doombot, which is exactly the case. Also at 6-3, things like Captain Marvel can definitely counter it and cause problems for Alioth. Ultimately, I do like the idea of this initiative-based play, make the early turns matter again, is something I've always said, and Alioth definitely does do that. We hadn't seen that since Leader, where initiative meant so much. Alioth does the exact same thing. Moving down to 3 power, I think, is going to take a lot of heat off it. I think people are going to generally lose a little bit of interest in it. I think the meta share is going to drop from its absolutely insane 25%. But what I will tell you, though, is Alioth's effect is still extremely powerful. The effect has not changed. And if the meta share drops, all that's going to happen is it's become more of a surprise card, allowing you to catch some people off guard, as some more refined lists might cut it because of its drop in power. I don't think Alioth's dead, though. I think its effect is still powerful enough to warrant it in many decks as a natural inclusion. Now, Forge, this is a very interesting change. While theoretically a nerf, it kind of changes the way Forge plays. What it does is it kind of lowers the ceiling of Forge, but it increases its versatility, which I actually think is pretty cool. So you reduce, like, say, the Forge Brood combination by 3 power because you're taking 3 power off. Not only do you go from a 2-1, a 2 cost to a 1 cost, but you're losing 1 power off of the on reveal effect, right? So that obviously is going to really impact Mr. Sinister. It's going to really impact Forge. Brood, but ultimately Forge, I think, is going to gain some versatility in things like bounce decks. The ability to beast a Forge and then play it again and generate that additional value is kind of notable. In bounce decks, I think you're going to see a lot more Forge because of how it's inexpensive and it's going to be a combo piece. And now, if anything, a beasted Forge at an additional, 0 cost plus 2 power, is going to be a huge play for something like a Hitmonkey, because not only you're playing additional card, but Hitmonkey's getting the buff too, which is pretty cool. So I think the Forge is going to see some play here, and it's going to be like more of a combo piece, which is going to be kind of fascinating. So I do like to change the Forge. I don't think Forge is dead by any means. I think that, if anything, it might change the types of decks that Forge is played in, which just might be pretty damn fascinating. Now, Shuri, this actually surprised me, but also didn't surprise me. I figured they were going to go after the Shuri archetype, but I didn't think they were going to go after Shuri. Coccia and I actually recently just did the top 10 most winningest cards in Marvel Snap, the highest win rate cards in Snap, and sure enough, like 4 of them or 5 of them were Shuri-based cards, like Typhoid Mary, Sauron, Red Skull, of course, Taskmaster. And it kind of brought the question, like, hey, like, this deck is kind of really good, and it has a 9.9% meta share, so it's clearly being played a lot. And the thing about Shuri is, like, its verticality makes things difficult for opponents who don't run Shang-Chi, because guess what? No, apparently everyone's cutting Shang-Chi from their decks because they're being super greedy with their combos. So taking a power off of the Shuri makes sense from a standpoint of, like, it doesn't really impact the other cards much, but it reduces the ceiling on the Shuri-based location, which is a predictable play. You know they're going to Shuri then play something big, and usually what that means is they win that location and then they 50-50 with their Taskmaster, and that's why the win rate's so good. But if there's a chance that you can trade that location they won, which is, I mean, preferably with Shang-Chi, but I digress, no one wants to play him right now. What happens is that if you're able to contest that location, even if it's like with Hulk or whatever, you're able to catch them off guard, and basically it's no longer a 50-50 if you can challenge that lane. So I really do like this changed from a degree. Like, it's a minor change. I think that Shuri's archetype as a whole will need some overall adjustment as time goes on, because it is just a little too consistent. I think it feels like a no risk deck half the time when you're playing it. So I will expect some more changes, but this is a good start, and it's good that they identify that Shuri, like, isn't quite breaking the meta, but it's something that they need to keep an eye on. Widow's Bite, this is actually by far my favorite change of the patch note here, the OTA I should say, and because they could have taken the easy out and just given the Black Widow a 2-2 kind of power line, and that would have sucked. Because, like, one of my favorite plays, someone who's been playing a ton of junk and a ton of disruption, is, quite frankly, just like kicking over the Black Widow with Viper. Now you're thinking, Alex, why don't you kick like a Hood over? Yes, you can kick Hood over, but Black Widow represents the second target for Viper if you don't draw into your Hood. And that's cool because like they have to play their Widow's Bite, and then the Black Widow comes over, and that's 2 slots of a 12 slot board that's just essentially wasted. And so the -1 power on the Widow's Bite I think is really interesting from that standpoint. It's also interesting because sometimes you want negative power. Maybe you want to throw initiative. Maybe you want to win a bar with no name game. Like, and then Black Widow becomes useless. I like the negative power thing because it adds like a little bit of nuance to the card. But namely, leaving it at a 2/1, the Black Widow, of course, allows you to do more combo-centric plays with the Viper in and of itself. So I do like that. I think the combo-centric element of Black Widow remains intact here, and the Widow's Bite keeps its identity as a notable piece of the package. So I do like the change here. I think this is a really, really interesting change. And as they identify here, you don't want Black Widow all over the meta. This has like the Galactus effect and the ALIOTH effect, where if Black Widow is everywhere, people are going to hate playing the game. So I think it's right to be cautious with Black Widow because it is an extremely unfun ability. So I think that managing it is an appropriate play. Tiger Spirit. Now, Tiger Spirit's pretty interesting here because I keep bringing up the Snapchat, but hey, we talk about a lot of cards, and actually the last month I just identified Tiger Spirit is one of my favorite 5 costs of the month because when Ravonna came out, I kind of started experimenting with Tiger Spirit and White Tiger, I should say. And I kind of fell back in love with the card, a card that I really had not played since my beginning moments of Marvel Snap, much like many of you. And yeah, there's like Wong-based on-reveal Odin decks, but you don't play that all that often. And I really like this change because it keeps the White Tiger, it keeps the core card as a 5/1. And what that allows you to do is it still synergizes with Ravonna, Mr. Negative, and others. So it essentially keeps its identity there, but you're adding more power on that Tiger Spirit, which is what you really want to do. So like there's a lot to really consider here when you're playing Tiger Spirit and White Tiger because of the straight up value generation it can create with combo-centric pieces like Ravonna and others. Regardless, guys, I do think that this is a good change, and I think that this is a good video that you should check out if you're interested in seeing more Marvel Snap content. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in that next Marvel Snap video.